laugh a lot during this series. I cannot preach a marriage series and not laugh. I'm going to get in trouble during this series. That's one of my goals, so just know that coming into it. And we're going to have fun together. But there also needs to start some conversations, and it needs to have some tough conversations had. And listen, maybe your marriage is great, and this is going to be a celebration for you. And I want to say this too. We're going to key on marriage, and we've been planning this for a while now. And I think with all the pandemic and everything, it's a very fitting series. I think that there's been a lot of strain on marriages. There's been a lot of strain on relationships because of everything that we've gone through over the past year. And so I think it's so important to talk about this. But I also want you to know this isn't just a love series. Our relationship here on earth with our spouse actually illustrates and models our relationship with Christ. So when we talk about love, it has more to do with our relationship with Christ than marriages anyway. And so there's a lot of parallels there. We're called the bride of Christ. And so we're going to talk about how that fits inside. So it's not just for people who are married, but if you're getting married, if you've been married, if you want to give wisdom to other people, we're going to have some of those conversations today. And so again, I'm going to ask you to be open-minded. And I want to start off by saying this. If you want to have a great marriage, you need to have a great relationship with Jesus. Like, that's the key to this whole thing. I can give you all the practical advice. I can tell you everything that, that we've done in our relationship and all this advice. But what it comes down to is the more that God is in the center of your marriage, the more that you're growing closer to God, the closer you will be and the better relationship you'll have. That's just it. And I'm going to be honest. If you're married and you're not Christ followers and he's not in your life, I don't have a lot of advice for you. Good luck. I mean, you're taking two imperfect people trying to bring them together as one. Good luck. I mean, it's a difficult task, okay? There's a lot that goes into marriage. And when I counsel with young couples, I try to get them to understand that. You're taking everything that you've learned, experienced, the baggage that you have, that person's taking all theirs, and you're trying to combine that together. It's not easy, okay? And it's simple, but it's not easy. And I want to show you a triangle chart here. I don't know if that's what it's called, but this explains it to me. Maybe you've seen this before. This has been around for a long time. But the basis of this entire series and my talk on marriage and all those things is this right here. If you guys are growing closer to God together, you will grow closer in your relationship, and you will have the kind of relationship that God desires for you and that you desire for you. That's just it. If two people are not following God and they're not really giving their life over to Him, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough anyway. But when God is in the equation and Jesus takes the wheel, listen, here's the deal. Jesus needs to take the wheel of your relationship. Your kids do not need to come first in that seat. Your spouse does not need to come first in that seat. Jesus needs to. It doesn't say, kids take the wheel. No, that was bad. I'm glad you're back because I need someone to tell me stop doing that. So it doesn't say spouse take the wheel. It doesn't say husband take the wheel. I mean, it's Jesus take the wheel. And that's such a great picture of where we're at. If we want to grow in our relationship together, we've got to be growing closer to God. And so I would just say, if you're struggling in your marriage, start at that basis. Where are you guys at in your relationship with Jesus? Where are you actually at? Like, have a tough conversation with yourself. Am I following Jesus? Because what I've seen is people who are serious about their faith and are following have a really hard time being a jerk, or you don't have time to do that when you're just loving people. And so I would say start there. The other thing that I would say going into this, and I want everyone to hear this, is God can fix any relationship. I've experienced it. I've walked through it with my parents. I'll share a little bit about that. I have seen it happen. God can mend a broken relationship. Okay, you're not too far gone. There may be a lot of work that needs to be done. There may be a lot of stuff that needs to happen, but He can do it. But here's the thing. You cannot count on your spouse to fix you. They do not deserve that weight. They don't need that weight. Jesus is the fixer. So bringing two broken people into a relationship and you guys trying to fix each other, it's not going to work. The puppy love's going to go away, and they're going to have to figure it out. But when Jesus is the one that's fixing both of you, that's when it accelerates your relationship, okay? So that's the basis that I want to start with. Regardless of where you're at today in your relationships, whether you're married or not, this is just good information to get back to love being simple. Because love can be simple. Love is not easy, okay? I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it can be simple if we allow God to speak into our relationships. And so I want to look at how we do that. And the truth is, we just have to choose simple. We have to make a decision. We speak what we want to be into our relationship. That's up to us. It's not up to someone else. You get to speak that. I saw this meme or picture, and it says, choose your hard. It said, divorce is hard, marriage is hard. Choose your hard. It said, going to the gym, being overweight is hard. Choose your hard. That's what I'm talking about. You choose what you want this to be. You choose what you want your marriage to be. It's up to you. There's circumstances that happen. There's things that happen. But I'm saying we get the choice to make it simple. And I think that if we'll look at God's word, we can see how to make that happen in our relationships, not just with our spouse, but with our kids and with people we don't even know, with people outside in this world. And I'll just tell you kind of my marriage experience, because for a long time, I'm fairly young. I'm 41 now, so I feel like I'm getting a little bit older. But I get to counsel a lot of couples. I get to marry a lot of couples. And so I felt like, man, I'm a little too young to be speaking in marriage. But the truth is, Amanda and I will be married 20 years in August. So I feel like once you hit the 20-year mark, yeah. I feel like that's more of applause for, like, bless her heart. Yeah, like... We're going to get real about how this works. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We dated for 5 years, so we're 25 years into a marriage. And I'm going to be honest, I think we have the greatest marriage on the face of this planet. And I don't apologize for that anymore, because I want to start changing the face of marriage. We should celebrate that marriage is going well. We should celebrate that God is honoring a marriage and that we can be the happiest people on the face of this earth. Now listen, we don't always get it right? I'm very graceful in the things that she does. No, I'm just kidding. I told you I'm going to get in trouble. We don't get it right. I mean, obviously, I probably get it wrong more than her, but we don't always get it right. But I'll tell you right now, we have been on this journey of love for 20 years, and it's been better every single year. And so I don't apologize. And one of the passions that God has placed on my heart is marriage. I have such a passion for marriage. I have such a passion for changing the perspective of marriage. I'm so sick of Hollywood and hearing about how it's a life sentence and a ball and chain, and you know, you're stuck with this. That's not true. It's the most life-giving relationship outside of our relationship with Jesus, if we allow it to be. Okay, so I know that I come from this with a passion to see marriages change, to see people happy, to see couples who are back in that love phase. That's what I want to see, and that's what I want to do. So as we're talking about that, just know that I don't have all the wisdom in the world, but I'm telling you, I'm on this journey, and I tell you from my experiences what I know to be true, and that is that marriage is the greatest gift that God has given us here on earth, outside of Jesus, obviously. There you go. Your wife's not even in here, but you get bonus points. So, so the first thing that I want to say for this week is love is intentional. Okay, love is intentional. As we talk about how to do this, how to love well, I'll just say the first thing is that love is intentional. I'm going to talk about what that means here in just a minute, but here's what I've noticed over my 21 years in ministry, 20 years of being married. Almost every problem that I see inside of marriage falls into one of two categories: selfishness or ignorance. Almost every single thing I've ever dealt with falls somehow into one of those two categories. Either at the core of who I am, I don't really care, or I didn't know I was supposed to be doing that, right? Most everything falls inside of that. And again, the same is true for your relationship with Jesus. I think most of our issues with our faith fall inside of selfishness or ignorance. Most people don't fully surrender to Jesus because of those reasons. I have some friends now who are atheists, and at the core of who they are, and they just don't want to be. They don't want to feel like they have someone telling them what to do anymore. It's selfishness. I mean, it just is. That's what it really comes down to. And I think why a lot of people don't get to experience the fullness of God is because we don't fully give ourselves over to Him. Like I'll go to church and I'll say yes, but I'm holding this piece back. I'm not giving you this. I still want to do this. Don't tell me I can't do that, Jesus, right? And then we wonder why we're not experiencing the fullness of His grace. It's selfishness. It's why we sin, right? We know sin's going to mess up our life, but we do it anyway. Why? Because we are selfish creatures. That's just how our life is. What's Burger King say? Have it your way. That's the life that we live, right? That's the world that we live in. Like, it needs to be my way. And what happens is that creeps into our faith, and then we wonder why we're not experiencing everything that God has for us, because we really haven't given. When we say yes to Jesus, just so you know this, He gets first place. He gets to make all the decisions, right? He gets lordship. He gets all those things. So know what you're getting into when you say yes to Jesus. But here's the beautiful thing. The Bible tells us that if we want to find our life, we have to lose it. And if we lose our life, we find it in Jesus, and we get everything we ever wanted. But a lot of times selfishness creeps in, or ignorance. A lot of people walk away from church and from Jesus because they think that Jesus is just a bunch of rules, and I have to do this, and I have to follow this, and it's just ignorance. They don't really know who Jesus is or what it means to be in an intimate relationship with Jesus, and that's really what He wants. It's not about a to-do list for Him. It's about actually knowing you and being in your life. And so people walk away because of selfishness or ignorance, and the same is true inside of marriage. Most problems arise from selfishness, a lack of caring, or ignorance, a lack of understanding or knowing. I could put pretty much everything, and it comes out in different ways. Miscommunication, money issues, infidelity, bitterness, complacency, silent treatment, harshness of tone. All those things spawn from one of those two things. There's some selfishness going on, or there's some ignorance going on. And here's what I know. Regardless of the relationship, whether it's parenting, whether it's marriage, whether it's outside of here, whether it's friends, Jesus has a plan for how that works out and how that plays out. And it's actually a pretty simple plan. You know me, I'm a simple person. That's why we name the church Simple Church, because I think we overcomplicate things. I think we make things way too difficult. And then it's like, well, I can't do that because it's so hard, so I'm just going to give up. And so I want to tell you that God has laid out a plan for relationships, for marriage, and to actually make it pretty simple, but we just have to choose to follow that path. And so I want to read this, and let me just start by saying this, okay? I'm going to read Ephesians chapter 5. If you know Ephesians chapter 5, you may already be shutting down, okay? There's some stuff in there that we're going to get to that has been misused. You'll see whenever I read it. This is God's word. Be open to it. Don't allow the world to twist it. This is the truth, and I believe this is the greatest plan for marriage. So in Ephesians chapter 5, starting in verse 15, Paul's going to talk about how to live a life. And to be honest, if we just did this, what he's going to say right here, we'd be successful in all of our relationships. Listen to what he says here. So be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Don't be stupid. I mean, that's pretty easy. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. Don't be drunk with wine, because that will ruin your life. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit, singing songs and hymns and spiritual songs among yourselves, and making music to the Lord in your hearts. And give thanks for everything to God the Father in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. If we just stopped there and just did that, we'd probably be okay, right? If we're walking around singing, I know some say, oh, we're not going to do that. Anyway, if we gave ourselves over to it, and we're walking every single day in the Spirit, and we're being filled with the Spirit, and we're allowing God to lead us, we're going to be okay in our relationships, right? You're going to be okay. You're going to know how to treat people. Your relationships are going to be great because you're following what God asks us to do when we let the Spirit in your parenting relationships, in your marriage relationships. It's just that too often we don't do that. So Paul's going to list out here in the rest of Ephesians chapter 5 what it looks like to be in a marriage relationship. Again, we'll talk about this, but this is what he says. In verse 21, and further, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. For wives, this means submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For a husband is the head of his wife, as Christ is head of the church. He is the Savior of his body, the church. As the church submits to Christ, so you wives should submit to your husbands in everything. Again, we're going to talk about that. Don't shut off like I know some of you are doing. For husbands, this means love your wives just as Christ loved the church. He gave up his life for her to make her holy and clean, washed by the cleansing of God's word. He did this to present her to himself as a glorious church without a spot or wrinkle or any other blemish. Instead, she will be holy and without fault. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. For a man who loves his wife actually shows love for himself. No one hates his own body, but feeds and cares for it, just as Christ cares for the church, and we are members of his body. As the scriptures say, a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. This is a great mystery, but it is an illustration of the way Christ and the church are one. So Paul lines out this plan for marriage, and he said, here's the deal. I know that some of this can be confusing, but this is an illustration of our relationship with Jesus. So it's really important to pay attention to this, because we're modeling for the world what it's like to be in a relationship with Jesus. So let's talk about this, because here's what I know. There's been a lot of preaching over Ephesians chapter 5, and it's caused a lot of controversy. You know how I know that is I get to marry couples, and I sit down and I ask them about these verses. I read it to them and I say, okay, tell me what you think. And pretty much I would say every couple that I've married that's under 25 have a huge problem with that. Oh, that's old stuff. That's ridiculous. We don't live like that. So I know that there's some issues here, but I think it's because we've allowed the world to take and twist God's word, which happens so often. And we've allowed preachers to come in and do that. And we've allowed churches to come in and do that. And so I want to talk real quick about the truths about Ephesians chapter 5, because I think it is a great setup for marriage. here's the number one truth that I think that we have to understand when it says, because I know the hang-up is, for wives, this means to submit to your husbands as to the Lord. That's kind of the hang-up with these verses. Let me just say this. Submitting has nothing to do with value. Okay, I think that's where we've got this wrong along the way. Somehow we've taken this scripture and decided that that means that men have more value in the world or in a relationship, and that is not at all what this means. Okay, you are not more valuable because you're the guy in the relationship. Sorry if you thought that, that's just wrong, okay? Here's the problem, because here's what people think. Yeah, sorry. Hey, let's no nudging during service, all right? Y'all save that for after, you know. Here's the thing. Here's what people would say then. Okay, well then it's 50-50. No, that's where we have it wrong. He just said, you leave your father and mother and cleave to your wife, and the two become what? One. You're not 50-50, it's 100%. You're one person. This is the foolishness of thinking there's any different value. You're the same person. That's what you sign up for when you get married. You become a singular person together. So the fact that there's any kind of like hierarchy of value inside just doesn't make sense. We are 100%. That's what we make up as one person, okay? I know that gets a little confusing, but I think that helps strip away this idea that there's some kind of cosmic value scale for men that submit means that I'm less valuable and I need to be off to the side being quiet. It's just not true. Pretty much every decision that I make, I'm going to talk to Amanda because she has a lot of insight and she's very smart, and I'm pretty much going to do what she says because she knows. She sees the big picture, and so it's not about that. But I will say this, submitting is about respect for leadership, and that's not a bad thing. It models, again, it's modeling our relationship with Jesus. We submit to him because he loves us, because he wants the best life for us. And what's gotten confused is the rest of this, the job for the husband, okay? We read, wives submit to the husband, and we kind of stop there because we either have a problem with it or we're going to use that to really tell our wife, put her in our place, or whatever the case may be. We don't read on where it says, men, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Well, how did he love the church? He died for the church. He sacrificially gave everything. Men have what I would say is an even larger call to love their family, to love their spouses sacrificially with every piece of their being. Now, we're not always going to get it right. We're going to mess up. We're guys, right? We do some dumb stuff. But that's the goal of a husband inside of a relationship, to sacrificially give yourself over everything, to die to yourself. It's not about you anymore. It's about those other people. It's about your spouse. It's about what she needs, to die to yourself. That's the call for a husband. And I'll say this, with all this submitting and all that, a husband who is loving his wife that way, there will be no issues with submitting and respect and all those things. Let me just say this. The issues with marriage and all this stuff is not the structure that God set up in Scripture, okay? It's not. This isn't a flawed structure now, okay? It's not like, oh, well, it's 2021 and we don't do that anymore. No, this is a good structure. There needs to be leadership. And let me just say this. Men need to start leading their families. That's what needs to happen. That's what's wrong with our world. Almost any problem inside of our society right now is because men are not leading their families the way that they're called to. That's what needs to happen, okay? That typically what happens, especially in America, is the mom drags the kids to church and maybe the dad comes along later. That's got to change. That's got to change. Men have got to start stepping up and leading their families. That's what we're called to. That's what needs to happen, okay? So the structure is not bad. The structure, he lines it out. This is how you need to do it. And then in verse 33, listen, he restates it. Let me make it really simple for you. So again, I say, each man must love his wife as he loves himself, and his wife must respect the husband. So submitting is not about like this like, hug, in a corner, like I can't say anything. It's about respecting him. That's what men need. The problem with this setup is not the structure. It's when we, out of selfishness or ignorance, don't appreciate our roles inside of the structure. That's where the problems happen. That's when it gets confused. When we abuse that power, or whenever we don't respect, or whatever the case may be, that's when the problems come. There's a great book by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs called Love and Respect. And if you've never read it, I suggest that every married couple reads it. If you're not married and you're going to be, you need to read it. If you have friends who are married, read it and then give it to them. I think everybody needs to read it because I think it does such a great job of explaining exactly what these roles look like. Men want respect. That's just a natural thing that God has given us. Women want to be loved. Now, again, it plays out different, but that's a natural thing that God has given us. That is a good thing. We've got to stop taking away these roles that God has given to men and women. Those are good things. Those are God-given things, and we're allowing the world to kind of strip those away and say, no, that's not right because it's 2021 or whatever the case may be. No, this is the structure, and it works. It's just that we've messed it up. The structure is not bad. So what happens is we get into these ruts, and what the selfishness or the ignorance starts taking place inside of our marriage. And what I love about this book is it explains something that I've been sharing for a while now because I think it puts a picture to exactly where a lot of couples are. Go ahead and bring it up. It's called the crazy cycle. Some of you, this honestly, that's what he calls it, and I love it because this may be a perfect explanation. For a year or for 20 years, this may be you. What happens is the man doesn't feel respected, so he doesn't give love to the wife. Well, she doesn't feel loved, so I'm not going to give respect to him. Well, she's not respecting me and give me what I need, so I'm not loving her. Do you see how that works? And what I know is that there are marriages that for 10, 15 years live on this. And it's draining. Let me just tell you, as a kid who lived under that, it is terrible. And I don't care if you're doing everything for your kids and giving them everything that they want, and you're getting into practice, and you're doing, they're playing all those sports, and they've got all the nicest clothes. It doesn't matter. They see this. They know this is happening, and it is draining on them. And for some of you, maybe today, this is a point to say, is this where we're at? Is this where we've gotten to? I want to encourage you because this can be really heavy. When you start noticing that and paying attention to it, you can fix it pretty quickly. You really can. And I'm just telling you from our experience, once we figured out, because in the first years, you're trying to figure each other out. You all have flaws, and you're trying to figure those things out. But once we figured out this whole thing and being intentional, that's really what it's about. It's about being intentional. It completely changed our marriage. And not that we had a great marriage before. I mean, the first 5 years, you're trying to figure it out. But we learned some stuff about year 5, and I'm telling you, the last 15 years has been great every single year. Gotten better through some junk that we've had to go through. It's just been better every single year. And so I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because I know firsthand that this can happen, and you can have the marriage that God wants you to have. But love is intentional. You've got to be intentional. And here's what I know: we are intentional about the things that we care about. We're intentional about if you hunt, you're intentional, okay? You got your stuff, you got all your stuff you put on, you got that special gun that you use, and you got the food that you bring in there and shoot them, which is not really hunting, but you do it anyway. And anyway, I'm just kidding. Calm down, hunters. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you're intentional. You have your place you go. You put your stuff up. You go 6 months early, put that stand right where it needs to be. For me, I go golfing the night before. I'm excited about going. I clean my clubs up, man. I get my clothes out, and then I'm depressed because I didn't play very good. But we're intentional about the things that we love, right? I'm going to be honest. I would imagine that there's a lot of you that treat your work people 10 times better than you treat your spouse because you're intentional about it. You want to have a good relationship with them. You want to have a good, a healthy work environment. How intentional are you with your spouse when you get home? How intentional are you with your kids when you get home? We're intentional about the things that we care about. It's just true. And that's where the selfishness creeps in. If you're not intentional about your marriage, you're selfish. And you're fighting against yourself because you are one with that person. You can break the cycle, but you have to be intentional. And what does that look like inside of marriage? Well, it's different for everyone, but it's the little things. It's going back to just care for that person more than you care for yourself. If you do that, whatever you need to do will come about. It's just, I'm going to place more emphasis on them than I'm placing on myself right now, even if my needs aren't being met. They're more important to me. That's what I signed up for. That's what I'm going to do. That's what an intentional marriage looks like. And what the great thing is, when you do that, and it may take some time. If you've been on this cycle for a while, it may take some time to get off of it. But when you start doing that, something happens. And there's a little thing called the energizing cycle. And what happens is your love motivates her respect, motivates your love, motivates her respect. and you get to enjoy your life. There's so many people that walk around just like dreading their marriage. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You have a built-in friend, spouse, partner, lovemaker. I mean, it's all right there. Why would we want to be miserable with that? That's crazy. God gives us everything that we need. We're going to talk next week about intimacy, but I'll just tell you this. All the studies show that people inside of a marriage are more happy with intimacy than people outside of a marriage. Okay, so we got this whole thing confused. Marriage is the greatest gift that God has given us outside of Jesus. This is a win. And if you don't feel that way, something's wrong. And it's time to get back on a cycle, because I'm telling you right now, when you get on that energizing cycle, what happens is you notice and you start to see, oh, wait, something's wrong. You know, we're not clicking right now. Then what does someone do? They become intentional. You know what? I'm going to do something for her. I'm going to do something for him. And then guess what? That motivates them to do something for you. And you get back on this cycle and you just energize each other. That's what life can look like if we allow God to be a part of it. And the same is true with our relationship with God, right? So many people don't experience the fullness of it. Well, how intentional are you being? Are you in his word, finding out more about him? Are you spending time around his people? I mean, how intentional are you being in your relationship? Because you can't just be here on Sundays sometimes and then be like, oh, God is not what I need. Really? You got to give him the ability to step into your life and to change you. And too often we're not intentional about that. My hope and my goal for you, for your marriage, for your relationships, is that you become intentional. The greatest gift that you can give your kids is a happy, healthy marriage. That's the greatest gift. Not anything you can buy them, not any amount of sports. That they get to see modeled what it looks like to love well, to love a spouse well. Because here's what happens. Then they get to see how Jesus loves us. It's an illustration. It's a model for how Jesus loves us. And the truth is, the divorce rate inside the church is the exact same as the church outside the church. That's a disgrace. And again, I'm not knocking you if you've been divorced. I'm just saying we got to turn the tide here. The world needs to see happy, healthy relationships inside the church. Why would they want to come to church if all the marriages inside the church are miserable? We got to start showing them a different way. We got to start speaking life into marriage. I'm telling you right now, if you get around me and you say something negative about marriage, you're going to get a sermon on the spot. I'm telling you. Because it's bull. That's a lie. That is a lie from the enemy saying that it's somehow a life sentence or that it's this thing that you shouldn't do or it's broken or whatever. Man, that's a lie. It's just about intentionality. And I would just, I hope this spurs some conversations with you. I hope that it gives you some time to talk and give each other some grace as you're figuring this all out. That's so important. But one place to start is, let me ask you this, and I'll end with this. Are you being more intentional with your spouse than your kids? Start there. Because what happens so often, what I've seen, is about year 10 to 16, kind of wherever you have kids, is when the breakdown starts to happen. Because the newness is worn off, life is happening, you're busy, you got bills, you got kids, you're running everywhere, and about that time is when it starts breaking down. And what happens is so many people become roommates. They don't spend time together. They're not intimate. It's not a close relationship. They're just, hey, what's your schedule? What's your schedule? Let's get these kids where they need to go. God has such a bigger plan than that. He has such a bigger plan for you. And so I hope that over these next couple weeks that you'll allow God to speak into your marriage. And if things are going great, to celebrate that. And if you're kind of hitting a rut, man, maybe now's the time to just start talking about it. Hey, what do we need to do, God has big plans. I want to read here, and I'll end with this. 1 Corinthians 13. I perform a lot of weddings, and I read 1 Corinthians 13 at every wedding, and I tell them, if you'll have this kind of love, your marriage will flourish. But here's the truth. When you're standing at the altar at 20, 25, whatever it is, you don't know what you're saying. Can I just be honest with you? Listen, I got married 20 years. I didn't know where I was supposed to stand on stage. We goofed around so much at the what's it called, rehearsal thing. I didn't know where I was supposed to go. I was like, where do we go now? Just candles, wax was dripping on the stage. Remember that? Yeah, that was a good time. I didn't know what I was saying. I knew I loved her. I thought she was really hot. I knew that at that time. We were best friends for 5 years. I didn't know what vows were. I didn't really know what I was saying. I didn't know what the scripture meant. And so I want to read this, what we call the love chapter. And I think that if you're at a point in your marriage where you're trying to get out of a rut, or you're trying to maybe even fix it, maybe you're at the last straw. I think that here's a good place to start if we want to keep it simple. He lines out what it looks like. So that's verse 4. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of wrongs. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. And maybe you've been married for a while, you need to revisit that. And it was, you read it in your marriage, but now it's real. And what does that look like? And I'm telling you right now, if you will live that, not just in your marriage relationship, but in your life relationships, kindness, just caring about people, not being irritable. Some of y'all are butts, man. Stop being butts. Golly, you marry that person. For some of you, you're lucky to have somebody. Anyway, okay, I don't need to go down this road. It's true. I think all the time, I don't know what she was thinking, but I'm sure glad that she, I don't know what I do, but here's the truth. It is not easy, okay? Like I said, it's simple, but it's not easy. But if you believe that God has a plan for you, and if you'll grow closer to Him together, I'm telling you, you will have a fantastic marriage. And you can enjoy everything that God has. And the kids get to see that, and the world gets to see that, and God is honored in that. And that's why it's so important for us. Our church is made up mostly of marriages, right? That's why it's so important. For the stronger your marriages are, the stronger your families are, the stronger your church is. And the stronger the kingdom is. And that's really what it's all about. If we're so busy just trying to figure out our marriage all the time, there's no way for us to impact the world. And so I'm praying that God would use this series to have some tough conversations, get real about life, celebrate, whatever it takes, and enjoy this gift that God has given you. And I hope that in your personal relationship with Jesus that this is a challenge as well.